Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going way back to the Old Testament. And a story that I think a lot of people find really intriguing and maybe even a little bit unsettling.
Right.
The story of Hosea and Gomer. Now, I'm curious from your perspective, what makes this story so compelling? What makes it relevant for us as Christians today?
Well, I think what draws me to the story is how it takes this very personal, very human drama and uses it to reveal these profound spiritual truths.
Right.
It's almost like a mirror reflecting back at us these deep-seated human tendencies to stray from what truly fulfills us.
Yeah, that's a great point. So let's kind of set the stage for our listeners who might not be as familiar with the story. So we have Hosea, a prophet who's commanded by God to marry Gomer, this woman known for her infidelity.
Exactly, and it's not just some historical footnote. This story serves as a powerful metaphor for humanity's relationship with God.
Okay, so starting to see where you're going with this. So we have Gomer, who keeps running back to her former lovers, even though she has a loving husband in Hosea. What was she searching for? What was it that kept drawing her back to those empty relationships?
That's the question, isn't it? And Hosea chapter 2, verse 7 offers a pretty poignant prediction. It says that she will chase after her lovers, but not catch them. And I think that speaks volumes about the emptiness that awaits those who seek fulfillment in the wrong places.
It's like chasing a mirage, right? You think you're getting closer, but it always remains just out of reach. And speaking of chasing mirages, the story also touches on this theme of idolatry, which was rampant in ancient Israel.
Right, and that's a key parallel here. Just like Gomer, the Israelites constantly turned to idols for fulfillment.
Even though they'd witnessed God's miracles and blessings firsthand.
Exactly. It's almost like they couldn't resist the allure of these false promises.
Okay, so help me understand this. What kind of idols were they chasing after? What did those idols represent?
Well, if you think about it, ancient Israel was surrounded by powerful empires, and they were constantly facing threats. So their idols often represented things like military security, economic prosperity, even fertility.
Things they believed would bring them stability and happiness.
Right. And it's interesting how these desires resonate even today.
I mean, we might not be bowing down to statues, but we definitely have our own modern-day versions of those idols.
Absolutely. We chase after security, significance, and fulfillment in things that ultimately can't deliver.
We fall into the trap of believing that these external things hold the key to our happiness.
And it's so easy to get caught up in that pursuit, you know?
It's fascinating how this ancient story can feel so relevant to our lives today. It's like we're hardwired to chase after these empty promises of fulfillment, whether it's wealth, status, or something else entirely.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all too easy to get caught up in that.
And it makes me think of that verse in Ecclesiastes.
Oh, yeah.
Meaningless.
Yeah.
Meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Or, as some translations put it, smoke, nothing but smoke.
Right. And it's coming from Solomon, the guy who seemingly had it all: wealth, power, wisdom.
And yet he reaches this conclusion that everything he'd been striving for was ultimately fleeting and empty.
It's a powerful reminder that true fulfillment cannot be found in the things of this world.
It's a sobering thought. So if all these things we chase after are just smoke and mirrors, then where do we find true, lasting fulfillment? Where do we even begin to look?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack as we continue this deep dive.
I can't wait.
That's the heart of it, isn't it? We can see all these things that we're chasing after are empty.
Right.
But then the question becomes, okay, so where do I go from here? What do I do?
Exactly. Where do we find that true fulfillment?
And thankfully, this story doesn't just give us the problem, it also points us towards a solution.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Well, you see how Hosea's love for Gomer never wavers, even when she's unfaithful.
Yes, it's remarkable.
I think that paints a powerful picture of God's love for us. It's this reminder that no matter how far we stray or how many wrong turns we make, there's always a path back to that source of true fulfillment.
So it's about returning to our true husband, so to speak, Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that deep, intimate relationship with him? How do we make that real in our lives?
Right. Well, one of the most fundamental ways is through prayer.
Okay.
And it's not about just reciting empty phrases,
Yeah.
It's about having a real conversation with God, sharing our hearts with him, and being open to hearing what he has to say to us.
So creating that space for him to speak into our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, the most powerful prayers are the simplest ones.
Right.
Just quieting our minds, being still and present with him.
Being open to his leading.
Yes. And another crucial element is immersing ourselves in Scripture.
Okay.
Think of the Bible as a love letter from God, a guidebook for this journey of faith.
I love that analogy, a love letter from God. But sometimes, I'll be honest, it feels a little intimidating.
Oh, I hear you.
Like, where do I even begin?
Yeah, it can be daunting, but don't let that stop you. Start small.
Okay.
Maybe pick a book that resonates with you. The Psalms are always a good place to start. Just read a few verses each day, reflect on them, ask God to speak to you through them.
So building that habit of connecting with God through his word.
Exactly. Make it a regular part of your life. And, if it feels overwhelming, don't hesitate to seek guidance. Join a Bible study group or find a mentor who can help you navigate those scriptures.
Having a guide on the journey.
Right. Now, we've talked about prayer. We've talked about engaging with scripture.
Right.
What about the role of community in all of this?
Yeah, that's a good point. We weren't created to do this alone.
Exactly. We need each other. We need that support, that encouragement, that accountability that comes from being part of a faith community.
So finding a church where we feel a sense of belonging.
Right. A place where you can be authentically yourself without judgment.
Where you can worship, learn, and grow together.
Yes. It's like having a spiritual family,
People who understand the unique challenges and joys of walking this path of faith.
Exactly. But there's one more element that's crucial to cultivating this deep relationship with God.
Okay, I'm listening.
Surrender.
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 What does that even look like practically?
It's about letting go of our own agendas, our own plans, our own ideas of how things should be, and trusting that God knows what's best for us.
So releasing that illusion of control.
Yes. And embracing the freedom that comes with trusting in his plan.
Even when we don't understand it.
Even when we don't understand it. It's not about becoming passive or giving up on our dreams. It's about acknowledging that God is bigger than our circumstances.
Right.
Bigger than our fears.
And bigger than our doubts.
Absolutely. Choosing to believe that he has a plan for our lives.
Even when things feel chaotic and uncertain.
Yes. And surrender isn't a one-time event.
Right.
It's a daily practice, a daily choice to trust in him.
Aligning our hearts with his will, seeking his guidance.
And, the beautiful thing is, as we learn to surrender to his love, we discover a level of peace and fulfillment that we could never achieve on our own.
So we've talked about prayer, engaging with scripture, the importance of community, and surrender.
Yes.
All incredibly powerful tools for cultivating that deep personal relationship with God.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important to remember that this is a journey.
It is.
A lifelong process of growing closer to God and experiencing his love in deeper and more profound ways.
It really is a journey. And like any journey worth taking, it takes effort.
It's a conscious choice to prioritize that relationship with God, to make it a part of everyday life.
Yeah, to make it the center, like a compass, always pointing us in the right direction.
And I think it's easy to fall into that trap of thinking we have to earn God's love.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's not the case at all, is it?
Not at all. It's a free gift. It's already there.
So it's more about opening ourselves up to receive that love.
Exactly. Letting it change us from the inside out.
And as we do that, as we surrender to that love, we start to realize that real fulfillment doesn't come from those external things we chase after.
Right. It's not about money or status or anything like that.
It's about knowing that we are loved unconditionally.
By the creator of the universe.
That's where we find our worth, our identity, our purpose.
And that's where true peace and joy come from, not from the things of this world.
But from that connection with God.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it back to you, our listener.
Yeah, what really stood out to you today?
What are those empty pursuits, those lovers that might be grabbing your attention right now?
Maybe it's that drive for success or that need to be accepted by others.
Or maybe it's something else entirely.
Take some time to think about it.
Where are you looking for fulfillment outside of your relationship with God?
Recognizing those patterns, that's the first step.
To breaking free from them.
And once we see them, we can start to shift our focus.
Bring our hearts back to God.
And let his love fill those empty spaces.
This isn't about guilt or shame.
Not at all.
It's about grace.
It is.
It's about recognizing that we're all on a journey and we all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
But God's love is always there.
Always.
Ready to welcome us back, forgive us, and show us the fullness of life that he has for us.
And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive.
But your own exploration doesn't have to end here.
No. Not at all.
Keep reflecting on what we've talked
Just
about.
read the scriptures, spend time in prayer.
And find a community of believers to share this journey with.
Yes. Find those people who can support you and encourage you.
And most importantly, keep seeking God.
Keep asking, keep knocking.
He's always there, waiting to welcome you home.
With open arms, full of love and grace.
Until next time, fellow deep divers, keep exploring, keep seeking, and keep diving into the depths of God's incredible love.